This is 990WBOB.com, the home of internet entertainment. From Rhode Island to the world, 990WBOB.com. 990WBOB.com is an independent free media outlet.
And here we come with another super episode of Rhode Island Red Radio from 990WBOB.com. I am your host, Allan. This is the place where facts matter, not feelings. It's about truth, justice, and the American way. It's great to be back, and before I do anything, I did want to take a moment to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I did want to promote a fundraiser for my friend Bonnie, who has been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So, on Saturday, October 13th, Cycle Bar in Providence will be hosting a fundraiser for Bonnie. Donations are welcome, they are encouraged, and if you are unable to attend or donate, if you can share the event, that will help immensely. You can find it on Facebook under Bike for Bonnie or on Cycle Bar's page. We all love you, Bonnie. So we have a great lineup for you tonight. Coming up, we have a Republican challenger for representative for District 24 in Ward, Julie Caiozzo, Republican challenger for Secretary of State, Pat Cortellessa, and a very much anticipated and appreciative interview with my friend Dean Cain. Now, Dean was scheduled to be on last week's show, but due to a last-minute scheduling issue on both of our parts, pretty much life happened. So Dean will be joining us, and we do have a lot to talk about. But first, I did want to talk about something else, and not just because it happened, but because we have no idea what the repercussions are going to be. Was the collateral damage worth it? I am, of course, talking about the national disgrace that was the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. Once again, I will preface this with the statement that I am in no way saying that people who bring forth allegations of abuse, any form of abuse, should not be listened to. And it is sad that we have reached a point in our society where we feel we need to make declarations before we speak. You know what? I've said this before, and it is on record. I'm done having to tread lightly before exercising my First Amendment rights in fear of triggering some liberal slinging isms and phobias. It isn't about that. It's about the Democrats going to insane extremes to stop President Trump's second nomination to the Supreme Court. From smearing and destroying a good man's name and reputation to basically victimizing a survivor of sexual abuse. Did you know that it is also Stand Up to Bullying Month as well? I don't think anyone told the Democrats that. So before Justice Kavanaugh was even nominated, the Democrats were already committed to opposing and stopping whoever President Trump nominated. Now think about that. Even before the hearings had already begun, they had already put their mind that he wasn't going to make it. So how is that fair or equitable? And how is that justice? The Democrats began the whole entire hearing with a lie, and it was a lie of admission. An investigation should have been done discreetly and quietly without Dr. Ford's name ever being released. This should have been the end of the story, but it was just the beginning. The hearings were disrupted and coordinated with interruptions and demonstrations and a tactic basically just to delay the hearing. And then it was about exposing issues regarding racial bias in documents where Judge Kavanaugh speaks on racial profiling. Corey, I'm Spartacus Booker, and he sachets in with this political cross, offering himself up on it in exchange for the truth, which was about as credible as his political career. And then the clock struck the 11th hour, and the world met Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Now, I do believe Dr. Ford believed what she says, that she was the victim of sexual assault. I believe something did happen to her. However, I don't believe that it involved Justice Kavanaugh at all. Suddenly, it's 1692, and ironically, it wasn't President Trump who turned the clock back as so many had predicted he would when he was inaugurated. It's 1692 for the 21st century. And what happened in 1692? The Salem witch trials. Allegations alone were proof of guilt, and the burden of proof was on the accused. I mean, how do you prove that you're not in league with Satan? Whoever makes a claim carries the burden of proof regardless if it's positive or negative content in the claim. And more accusations followed, each one less credible than the one before. What the hell is credibility anyways? In this case, it's how believable or compelling somebody was. And what did we find out? We found out that Justice Kavanaugh, he likes to drink beer, and thanks to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Justice Kavanaugh once thought farts were funny. Who knows, maybe he still does. I mean, I do. And in an interview with Martha McCallum, he was criticized for being not that emotional, because, anyone who is falsely accused would be more animated and more upset. Now, they're calling his judicial temperament, whatever that is, into question because he got angry and emotional. Well, you try destroying a man's family and see how nice he's going to be to you. And what about Dr. Ford? She was victimized all over again. I mean, At least this time she knows how she got to the party and got home. Thank you, Senator Dianne Feinstein. Either way, it was all subjective, and despite any corroborating evidence, the Democrats demanded an FBI investigation, which Senator Jeff Flake gave to them, also with the understanding that the investigation be limited in time and scope. And we all heard the liberals screaming. So the FBI investigation started and finished a lot quicker than most of us expected, and guess what? Just like that, the liberals hate the FBI again. No matter. Kavanaugh probably shouldn't be on the bench anyways because of his temperament. He hates women, he hates gays, and he hates minorities. Funny thing is, though, this Saturday, Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court. The process before was a sham and a mockery, a national disgrace, and pretty much an embarrassment. All the while, the left's media machine runs ridiculous, elaborate, uncorroborated allegations, but an old familiar narrative makes its way to the surface. It's women against men. It's the age-old gender war. You know what I see? I see the detrimental effect this is going to have on women, survivors of sexual abuse, and how it's been trivialized and lampooned by the left. I see a shift in office politics where women are afforded fewer opportunities because of advancements, because who wants to be the next one accused? I mean, would you put yourself in a situation where working alone with a member of the opposite sex could one day come back to haunt you because there wasn't a chaperone around? What if you were competing for the same promotion? Oppression, segregation, sexism, and victims, all brought to you once again by the Democratic Party, where the only winner is the biggest victim. Now, I'm not saying all women will do something like this, but what I am saying is that all men are potential victims. So I think where this is going to be going, it's going to be bad for everyone, unless we just manage to put an end to this. So right now, coming up next, I think we have on the phone is Julie Caiozzo, running for State Representative, District 24 in Warwick. Julie?
Hi.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Running around, but probably not as much as you are.
Maybe just as much. You never know.
Oh no, I'm sure you're doing much more. I just do a lot more typing. So, you are running for District 24 in Warwick. I wanted to ask you basically. So, what, as far as your campaign goes, what are some of the issues that you're going to be fighting for, that you want for change?
Well, I feel like the issues that I want to address are pretty much the same as everybody else, but it's fine. Basically, to give the governor a line item budget veto, creating an office of Inspector General. I do want to make sure that we can repair our schools and also make them safe. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, my biggest point is to end our reckless spending. That's actually the biggest point that the biggest issue that I want to fix.
That you want to go ahead and address. Now, I did want to ask you, a little while ago, there was a bill that was sponsored, co-sponsored, I believe, by your opponent as well, for regarding pet store sales.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So actually, that bill, I really agree with that bill because I believe that animal cruelty, we all see it, that it exists. We all know that there's some puppy mills, of course, that are mass breeding all these cats and dogs and putting them in cages and whatnot, and that is inhumane. So for a pet store allowing pet stores to just only sell pets that are from shelters, I feel like that's really important. That's actually a really the way to go. Mm-hmm. So I do agree with that, though. We could also try to figure out another way to maybe end the puppy mills, like have more regulations mm-hmm. where they can treat our pets humanely, of course. Right.
I mean, I know, but for my dog, actually, I did get him from a breeder, but his mother, they're allowed to. I mean, I went there. It's a nice farm and everything. I wouldn't mind going there myself. But they pretty much have two litters, and from there they're adopted out. And I actually ended up adopting the mother. So I mean, no, I mm-hmm. think that there should be more guidelines, more I guess inspections and making sure that they're not just churning out puppy after puppy.
Absolutely, right. We need more inspections because we just all see it. If people want to make money, a lot of times they just don't really care how they make it.
Right.
So
money is money.
We need to control, yeah.
What I did want to ask you now, I know that you're a supporter of the whole Second Amendment right and things that we were having issues with in the State House, all the bills that we're passing, and so that I'm glad you're definitely going to be standing up for that. And then I think there was one other thing, truck tolls. What are your take on truck tolls?
Yes. Well, I don't really like the whole idea of truck tolls. Reason being because the truck toll is only going to cause the prices of our goods to rise because, of course, it's going to cost more for our truckers to drive through the state, but also because we're so small, for our own truck drivers, for our own citizens of Rhode Island, for them to actually go to work and do what they have to do, they're going to have to keep paying just to leave their backyard. That's also kind of a little bit much. So I feel like there should be a way for us to make some money, obviously, to fix our roads and whatnot from our taxes that we already have. I don't see why we would need to use the truck toll.
Right. All right. So we are actually. So right now we're getting a little bit close. What I want to do, I want to make sure for your campaign, where your Facebook page. Now you're not on Twitter, correct?
I'm not on Twitter. I have just a Facebook page. I do share some pictures when I'm out campaigning on Instagram as well. But my Facebook is the Julie Caiozzo for Rep. And
is that where we can contact you for a sign too?
Instagram is Julie for Rep 24.
Okay.
I do have an email address on there as well. I love receiving emails so I can answer everybody's questions. I want to, of course, be the representative that people deserve. So I'm not doing this just for myself.
Right. Who would do that? All right, Julie. We get to take a break. I want to thank you for stopping by, and again, to check out your Facebook page or your campaign, and to grab a sign.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and actually, we're going to try and get you back on before the elections.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
That sounds great. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, guys, we are going to take a break because stay tuned. Coming up, we still have Republican challenger Pat Cortellessa and Dean Cain coming up. See you in a little bit.
Smack dab in the heart of Cranston, Rhode Island, Buttonwoods Brewery is making well-hot IPAs, simple yet sophisticated saisons, and unique and interesting barrel-aged beers. Head on down to 530 Wellington Ave in Cranston, Rhode Island, and have a fresh beer to see our good friend Ollie and I guess Morgan the brewer. That's Buttonwoods Brewery for the best and unique and local craft beer at 530 Wellington Ave, Cranston, Rhode Island, or online at buttonwoodsbrewery.com, the official brewery of 990 WBOB.
I'm voting in the midterm elections because my constitutional right, because my ancestors died.
To make it better for my children. The women before me fought.
So we can remain free, helping the community out. Midterm elections.
I know every vote makes a difference.
My opinion matters.
I vote.
I vote. I vote in the midterm elections.
Register now on IamAvoter.com. And don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 6th.
Brought to you by I Am a Voter and the Ad Council.
New England's premier electrical contractor is Econ Electrical Contractors, focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. Licensed and insured in all of New England, Econ Electrical Contractors offers competitive quotes for residential and commercial work. Call Econ Electrical Contractors, 401-297-1844. For service upgrades, call 401-297-1844. For pools, spas, PV modules, and more, call 401-297-1844. or check out etonelectrical.net, leading the trade in quality workmanship. Eton Electrical Contractors. No job is too big or too small. Call today for a free estimate, 401-297-1844. Improve or upgrade the electrical work in your home or business safely, affordably, and as always, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Eton Electrical Contractors, 401-297-1844.
Do you ever get the feeling the news just doesn't make sense? Maybe you just want to crack open a couple of beers and talk about the headlines of the day with a few competent minds. Do you like hearing a different spin on politics, entertainment, and even a little sports? This is Scott Rotundo. Tune into my show, The Rotunda. You'll get all this and more every Monday night and also on demand at 990wbob.com.
You're listening to 990wbob.com, Renegade Radio.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. You were listening to Rhode Island Red Radio on 990wbob.com. I am Allan, and I want to thank Julie Caiozzo, our candidate for State Rep District 24 in Warwick, who is here with us before the break. And right now on the line, we have Republican challenger for Rhode Island Secretary of State, Pat Cortellessa. Hello, Pat.
Hi, Allan. How you doing tonight?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well, The campaign's running really great. It was like clockwork. People are really fine-tuning on the issues. I'm proud of that because it shows that the Rhode Island electorate knows what's going on, and I'm happy to report that. So, we're going forward. Great things are happening. About 27 days to go for the election. As you know, we spoke before regarding the Secretary of State's position, and what we're focused on is the election laws, which really doesn't do to voters anything good. It's a very heavily handed operation that's going on in Rhode Island right now. We're going to change that, Allan. Mm-hmm. I told you before, when we win in November, the new laws, which we're going to try to implement, will be a photo ID will be required to register to vote in Rhode Island. Doesn't have to be a driver's license. It could be any state photo ID. Could be a passport photo ID. Could be military photo ID. But we're going to go away with the utility bills.
No utility bills. No debit cards, credit cards.
Yeah, we got to get away from that, I think.
Yes.
The voting is so important. That's something pristine and honorable.
Yes.
It goes back to our founding fathers, and we're not going to mess with that. We're going to bring that back to where it was, where people feel confident in our system. I want to present that to the voters and the Rhode Island citizens, that they can feel confident, rock-solid confidence in me to make sure I implement what they desire regarding the Rhode Island voter laws.
Now, what I wanted to ask you, as far as like the voter rules and everything. So now, what strategy are you approaching this from?
Well, I tell you, as you know, back in 2016, I was a committee member on the Donald Trump Presidential Committee for Rhode Island.
I remember that.
I still have 100% confidence in our president, Donald J. Trump. I am going to implement, on a Rhode Island level, a lot of his policies, and I support him. And I think the majority of Rhode Islanders do support Donald Trump. I do not believe fake news media reports, fake news polls. I am actually quite honored to be able to probably be the only Rhode Island Republican on the ticket that is embracing Donald J. Trump.
Well, I am proud of you.
Thank you. And I think there's thousands of Rhode Islanders who share the same feeling that you do. I am just the messenger, and I want to really challenge the Democratic and the liberal perception in Rhode Island, in the powers to be. Mm-hmm. And if we win, boy, I tell you, it will send shockwaves across the nation that by supporting President Trump's agenda, down in Little Rhode, we take the Secretary of State's office. that'd be something impressive.
Well, I mean, there was a time here in Rhode Island when we did impressive things. So yeah, I do think it's time, and I think we've kind of seen the people the Republicans who don't or embrace or go after the same agenda as the president with the backing like that. Sometimes it doesn't always work out so favorably.
Well, that's true. However, remember, we have the Democratic base that supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election. We got 40%. And I think if we had more time, and I remember at the meetings we had a small team, but the the message was really radiating with the people. And if we had more time, I think we could have brought up to maybe 45, 48%. If we had a little extra time in a better team, maybe a more organized group of additional supporters to go out into different communities. But you saw the map. The Journal just put the map out there. And boy, I tell you, it looks like it's creeping into the other parts of the state, from the suburbs down. And that's something interesting, how that map portrayed the Trump support in Rhode Island. And Cranston and a few other towns are very close, even though they went with Clinton totally. A lot of the districts in Cranston and Johnson were pro-Trump. And I think now, after seeing how the Democrats and the liberals and the progressives attack people, and like with the Supreme Court justice, I think that's going to energize the Trump base to go out and vote in about 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks. So that's something that's great. I have a lot of faith in the Trump base, Democrats, unaffiliated, Republicans. That team is, I tell you, I love having that base to go into battle with November 6th. And and that's the philosophy. That's what I'm putting out there, so your listeners will understand. Get together, team up, vote for Pat Cortellessa, because I'm bringing the Trump agenda to Rhode Island.
Bringing the Trump bump. Because I know. I mean, even where I live, and you wouldn't even think. I mean, there are still giant 4x8 President Trump or Trump Pence signs, stuck to the side of the houses, and it's still on lawns and in people's windows. Just stuff from the 2016. And even in my neighborhood, I was quite surprised at the number. Even where I work, I think there's maybe 2 people who aren't Trump supporters. So I mean, the majority of the people that I know are either Trump supporters or they're happy with him. They may not be completely gung ho, but they're happy with him. They're happy the way the economy is going, and they're more positive as far as their outlook goes.
I agree. I think they're still as strong as they have ever been since the 2016 election. They needed someone to get the standard bearer and go out there and go, look, I'm with Trump. That's the way it's going to be. We win or lose with President Trump. I'm willing to take the shot. I put the candidacy on the line. I have complete faith. I see how energized they are. I think they're more energized than the progressive base, which is really what you have in Rhode Island. You have the progressive base on the left, very energized, and you have the Trump base on the right, very energized. So let's see how it all plays out. The best base comes out, we'll probably win. I like the Trump base because, they're the blue-collar workers of Rhode Island, the hard-working people who have been taken advantage of by these Democratic progressives who want them, the Rhode Island blue-collar workers, to pay for their programs for the illegal aliens, people that, who don't want to go out there and work, basically, and just eat off the dime of the taxpayers. I mean, we still got elderly people who are on Social Security who are being taxed on their Social Security, to pay for programs that money could potentially go to illegal aliens and feed them and also house them, medical supplies, medication, doctors. So it'd be nice to be able to say, hey, you know what, we just saved a bunch of money working on this other issue. Let's get the elderly and remove the Social Security tax from Rhode Island. Remember, 17 states across the nation tax the elderly, and Rhode Island is one. So, it's not right.
Yep. So,
we're going to pursue that.
Pat, I don't mean to cut you up, but we are cutting it close.
Listening to the Rotund.
Affordably.
From, the sub
break, when we come back,
guys, from hearing what people want. So, it's not right.
Yep. So,
we're going to pursue that.
Pat, I don't mean to cut you up, but we are cutting it close. Before, I wanted to make sure your website, your Twitter, where can someone find more about you, your campaign, and
Excellent, good question, Allan. It's Pat Cortellessa Twitter or Pat Cortellessa Facebook. Please go on. My platform is on my Facebook page. The Twitter is an up-to-date, continuation of what we're doing. We had a great weekend at the festivals. I'm very, very energized from hearing what people are coming up to me and tell me how they feel. And I tell you what, Rhode Islanders know regarding the election laws. They know what's going on down there with the electric bills and the utility bills and all that other nonsense. They want it stopped.
Oh, we do. We do. We're done with it. All right, Pat.
Yeah.
We do have to get going because we have to pay some bills here too. So we're definitely gonna try and get you back on here as soon as possible.
Great, Allan. We'll talk soon.
Great.
And,
Thank you.
Let's keep it going. Okay. Bye.
Oh, we will. We will. I will see you soon. Thank you very much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, we are going to take another break. When we come back, Dean Cain will be joining us about his new movie, and we will see you soon.
Sir over here from 990WBOB.com's a franchise. Gotta let you in on a little secret. You see, for years now, whenever I'm shopping for a new ride, I always visit my boys over at King Philip Motors. Conveniently located at 391 Metacom Ave in beautiful and historic Bristol, Rhode Island. King Philip Motors has a wide inventory of gently used cars and trucks. Check them out online at kingphilipmotors.com. Or give my friend John a buzz, 401-323-7853. Mention 990WBOB.com sent you and enjoy the savings. That's King Philip Motors in Bristol, Rhode Island, or online at kingphilipmotors.com.
Inspire the inner graphic artist in you. Everyone can become a professional designer with PhotoJet's graphic design tool. Whenever you feel inspired, you can always create awesome designs with massive templates from posters, flyers, cards, and invitations. PhotoJet meets all your needs to create graphic designs, make collages, and edit photos. Check them out at photojet.com today. With only a few clicks, anyone can create professional artworks even without any experience. Powerful design and editing tools enable you to achieve high-quality results quickly without any hassles. All for free. That's right, free at photojet.com. No download or registration required, effortless and time-saving. Design like a pro today at photojet.com.
Hey, fight fans, head on over to CESMMA.com. We detail profiles of CES MMA fighters, catch up on past bouts, read about upcoming fights, purchase tickets, even check out their lovely ring card models and more. The leading MMA showcase in the Northeast is CES MMA, featuring the best combatants at the best venues. Stay connected and feel the power. CESMMA.com. We put the class in combat sports.
Smack dab in the heart of Cranston, Rhode Island, Buttonwoods Brewery is making well-hot IPAs, simple yet sophisticated saisons, and unique and interesting barrel-aged beers. Head on down to 530 Wellington Ave in Cranston, Rhode Island, and have a fresh beer to see our good friend Ollie and I guess Morgan the brewer. That's Buttonwoods Brewery for the best in unique and local craft beer at 530 Wellington Ave, Cranston, Rhode Island, or online at buttonwoodsbrewery.com, the official brewery of 990 WBOB.
Well played, 990 WBOB's featured show on gaming, music, and pop culture. Hey, I'm Pete, a closeted nerd with some spunk, Bazinga. And I'm hosting Well Played. My co-host Magic Mike and I will be bringing you the most up-to-date news and stories, everything nerd or not you've ever wanted. From movies, music, and anime, all the way to our forte, gaming, wild thoughts and entertainment, gaming, and porn. Okay, maybe not porn. It's well played on 990 WBOB. Log on.
You're listening to 990WBOB.com, Renegade Radio.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to Rhode Island Red Radio on 990 WBOB.com. I am Allan. I want to thank Republican challenger for Rhode Island Secretary of State, Pat Cortellessa, who was with us right before the break. Dean Cain will be with us shortly, but I wanted to add my story to this whole truth, justice, and American way theme I got going on tonight. So, last week, Gina Raimondo released her plan to strip away your civil rights. That's right, your Second Amendment rights. And here is my story on that. On Tuesday, April 24th of 2018, the Rhode Island House Judiciary tried to shove 18 gun bills, all involving guns and Second Amendments, right through. 17 of the 18 infringed upon the Second Amendment, and only one bill, House Bill number 7162, the Gun Crimes Report, it directed the Attorney General to report annually to the General Assembly on the incidence and disposition of crimes involving guns. You want to guess who didn't like that bill? The Attorney General. There was an amazing turnout to a community, though, and testifying went well into the night, and I was one of them. My concerns were somehow oddly unique, as if no one had ever considered them. No, that obviously can't be. That's just stupid, I thought. I mean, God, Gina just tweeted out how she's proud to stand up for the LGBT community. And for goodness sakes, I've got my sister David up there in Congress. This must be a mistake.
My name is Allan. I'm from West Warwick, and I'm gay. The reason that's relevant is because gun control will do nothing but hurt the LGBT community. While those of you who wish to use the power of the state to restrict gun ownership, you need to re-examine your position. Often, we are thought of as weak and defenseless, but we are not, unless you make us that way. According to the FBI, the number of hate crimes committed in the United States has risen for a second consecutive year. 19.7% of those hate crimes were motivated by sexual orientation bias and gender identity. Violence towards the LGBT community is real. We are victimized at a far greater rates than other minority groups. We face multiple assailants. People die. You need to understand that if you're gay or transgender, you simply can't hope that laws will protect us, because they don't. We need to stop voting for politicians who don't protect us and introduce legislation that restricts our ability to defend ourselves. This should be a call to the LGBT community and its allies to take our own defense seriously and question left-leaning institutions that tell them that guns are bad and should be left to the professionals. We can fight back when our lives depend on it. We have. Gun ownership and training is a more powerful means of self-protection and self-respect than your hate crime laws and anti-discrimination legislation. Gun rights are about civil rights because armed gays do not get bashed. Any vote to restrict or infringe upon the Second Amendment right is not just a vote against law-abiding citizens who defend themselves. It is a vote to restrict the LGBT community's ability to defend itself and to vote and a vote to leave us vulnerable.
Okay, so now several of the bills dealt with raising the age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. And House Bill 7766, sponsored by Representative Jason Knight, District 67, Barrington, and Warren, which would have created the Rhode Island assault weapons ban of 2018. It restricted the possession and sale of semi-automatics, limited magazines to 10 rounds or less, and thus began an exchange with Jason Knight.
Representative Knight, did you have a question?
Please, Madam Chair. Sir, of all the bills that are on the table tonight, if every single one of them passed and became law, you'd still have the right to defend yourself with a firearm.
If I was an 18-year-old transgender, how would I?
So, the transgender part.
If I was an 18-year-old, how would I? Transgendered and gays, we are 2 to 3 times more likely to be subject to a hate crime. We are now 18-year-olds, and the LGBT community will be defenseless. How do you expect us to defend ourselves?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you make your point very well in terms of the problem faced by LGBTQ members of that community historically and today, I get all that, right? But at the end of the day, and, you're right, it's late. I didn't consider the 18-year-old part. But that hypothetical that you put forward, I mean, that's a real hypothetical. That could happen. And, of course, all these bills represent a policy choice. I just hope you can see that. That's all I'm throwing out there.
Can I respond to him?
Please, yeah.
When an 18-year-old gay man is killed and is unable to defend himself, who are we going to blame? Are we going to blame the perpetrator? Are we going to blame the gun? Or are we going to blame the people who passed this legislation?
Well, I'm going to blame the perpetrator in your hypothetical.
And we're going to blame the people who passed the legislation.
Okay, so where are all these LGBT activists, and why are they so silent? There's something wrong with the LGBT community, and organizations like GLAAD are calling for more media coverage for the transgender killing epidemic, and it gets none. But you know what the media does cover? GLAAD tweeting Dean Cain, someone who has always been a supporter of LGBT rights, a supporter of same-sex marriage, and he's had an onslaught of false anti-LGBT accusations with zero corroboration. Yet here it is in black and white like it was the actual truth. And it didn't start out that way. So opening nationwide this Friday and showing here in Rhode Island at Cinema World at the Lincoln Mall is the movie Gosnell, the trial of America's biggest serial killer. Now, the film is a true story of the investigation and trial of Dr. Kermit Gosnell, his 30-year killing spree, and the political and media establishment that tried to cover it up. Starring as Detective James Wood, one of the detectives who investigated and put abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell behind bars, is Mr. Dean Cain, who also happens to be on the line with me. Hello, Dean.
Allan, how are you, my friend?
I am good. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you. Jetting around the world these days, so I'm a little bit tired, but I don't mind it at all.
Now, you're in California right now, right?
I just arrived about 12 hours ago. Yep.
Oh, wow, about 12 hours ago. All right, so let's just get right to it. So I know you have the Gosnell movie coming up. Tell us a little.
October 12th.
October 12th, which is this Saturday, opening up here.
Okay, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
So Gosnell was a movie we shot probably 3 years ago, and first of all, nobody here in Hollywood would fund the film, so the producers went on Indiegogo and raised, I think, $2.3 million in a very short period of time. It was great to get that kind of support, and then we made the film, and the film tells the story of Kermit Gosnell, who's a Philadelphia abortion clinic doctor who is now in jail for life, found guilty of 3 counts of murder and 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, I believe. And that's what they was found guilty of. But he probably and most likely was guilty of thousands of murders. And what he did was he would induce labor for late-term abortions instead of doing what they do. It's called a dilation and extraction. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that, it's a very complicated procedure and expensive, and it takes time. Instead of doing that, he would induce labor. Babies would be born alive. And he would snip their spinal cords with surgical scissors. He called it snipping.
Yeah, and I remember even seeing some of this, and I couldn't even get through it. I was just so horrified.
It is a horrifying situation, but people don't realize. I mean, this guy doesn't think he's done anything wrong. So he got caught doing that and went to jail. And part of what happened is when he was getting the court system. He was going through the courts and everything. Nobody covered it. No journalists were covering it. No one wanted to be around. No one wanted to tell the story. It was crazy. They thought there was going to be, a media circus, but nobody was there. He was found guilty, and finally Kirsten Powers said something, and some journalists did show up. So you finally got to see some things in the media. But after we finished the movie, and then we wanted to distribute it, nobody wanted to distribute it either. And even buying ad time for us, like on NPR, we couldn't call him an abortion doctor or an abortionist. We had to just refer to him as Dr. Gosnell, even though that's what he did. He brought in about $1.8 million a year. He performed thousands and thousands of abortions, late term, and the guy was a true monster, and he had no remorse whatsoever.
And yeah, he just managed to slip through the cracks. I think a lot of it was because they wanted to make sure that women had access to these services, but also were willing to risk the health and safety of these women to do it.
Well, yeah, they actually had, at the time, it was Governor Ridge of Pennsylvania, who I know personally, and I like him a lot, but the political pressure was put on him to not inspect that clinic, and it hadn't been inspected, I think, in 17 years.
17 years, yes.
So when they raided the place, it looked like a house of horrors. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I what I had seen about it, what I had researched it on myself. I mean, a lot of the stuff I had trouble getting through. What I was curious about now. So, what about when you were presented the story, the script? What was it about it that made you want to do this project?
Well, the story itself was very compelling, and the fact that it was a real life story is always interesting to me. Real life is always more strange than fiction. They say it all the time. I mean, it really is. The stuff that people really do is you're just like, wow, I can't believe in real life someone would do this or have this be their life. It was really well written. Andrew Clavin wrote the script, did a great job. Nick Searcy was directing it. I knew Nick. I didn't know him personally, but I knew him as an actor, and I know he's very talented. He worked with some friends of mine on Justified and some other projects, and I liked the character of Jim Wood as a detective. It wasn't that I was trying to make a statement or do anything. In fact, this entire film, people are like, oh, it's a pro-life movie. It's not. This film takes no stance on the abortion issue. It just tells the true story of what took place with this man and this clinic and the things surrounding it that people just aren't aware of. And so for us is to get the word out there that this stuff is taking place, and to hopefully, for me, I hope it sparks a discussion among people where they go, wow, okay, this isn't what I sort of thought it was. Right. The fact that this can exist, it should never be. Places like this should never be allowed to exist. The poor women that go in these places, it's horrible for them, and maybe do something about it.
Right, because I mean, I know one of the biggest arguments, whether you're pro-choice, pro-life. I mean, one of the arguments is that women getting back alley abortions and ending up in places like this. So,
sure. Even though this is a fully sanctioned clinic, this is the place that you're supposed to want to go to. But it is like a back alley abortion clinic. But he had two tiers. He put the more affluent white people in a different spot. I mean, this guy, he was actually a black doctor too. But he was the stuff he did was it was crazy. Again, now the funny part of it is, people are like, oh, it's a pro-life movie and this, that, and I am actually pro-choice even now after doing the movie. But this is how I have to make it clear to people. This is why and how I'm pro-choice. Right. I'm pro-choice up to viability, which is at 20 weeks, it's about 50% chance of the child to live if born at 20 weeks. At 26 weeks, it's 90%.
90% viable.
At 24 weeks, which is 6 months, it's somewhere close to that. So it's really high. And at that point in time, of course, not including medical conditions for the child and the danger for health of the mother. Those things, of course, I think it should be allowed at that time. But what I say about this is, if I were a legislator, Alan, if I was making the laws, I wouldn't legislate that it's illegal before 20 or 24 weeks. I wouldn't. There's some things, some counseling and some waiting periods I'd like to put in there, which most states actually already have in their state laws. So when I say that I'm pro-choice, I would never want to abort my own child, but I wouldn't want to legislate. I don't want government telling anybody what they can do with their body.
What they can and cannot do with their body, right? All right, Dean, we got to take a quick break. We will be right back just in a few minutes.
I'm voting in the midterm elections because my constitutional right, because my ancestors died.
To make it better for my children. The women before me fought.
So we can remain free. Helping the community out. Midterm election.
I know every vote makes a difference. My opinion matters.
I vote.
I vote. I vote in the midterm elections.
Register now on IamAvoter.com. And don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 6th.
Brought to you by I Am a Voter and the Ad Council.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Attention vintage car owners. Sell your classic today. Classic experts in Fall River, Massachusetts will be any offer guarantee, any condition, no title, no problem. Nationwide pickup, and they'll even pay $1,000 for referrals. Send your classic car photos to sales at CLASSICXPERTS.com. Call to speak with a professional buyer at 1-888-886-6335. That's 1-888-886-6335. Sell your classic ride today at ClassicExperts.com. That's ClassicXPERTS.com.
Conveniently located in the heart of Cranston, Rhode Island, Park Wine and Spirits has or will help you find wines, spirits, beers, and cigars that fit your taste. Whether you collect fine wines, love craft beer, or simply enjoy a glass of your favorite adult beverage from time to time, stop by Park Wine and Spirits. They have you covered. The weekend starts at Park Wine and Spirits, located at 1375 Park Avenue in Cranston, or online at parkwineandspirits.com.
You're listening to 990WBOB.com, Renegade Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back. You are listening to Rhode Island Red Radio on 990WBOB.com. I am your host, Allan, and we are on the line with Dean Cain.
One of the points I had made when I was discussing this movie with one of my friends is, I mean, again, if abortion is here, and we need to make sure that the women who are already having these procedures, aren't further victimized. And I think something like this,
they're horribly victimized.
I think would help to bring awareness to this. And I think it's unfortunate that the blowback that the film and you are getting from groups saying that it's a pro-life movement, or it's a movie, or it's a anti-abortion movie, because you've gotten some heat about that as well, just for starring in it.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, in today's polarized world and Twitter sphere, people, if you say something that doesn't align with everybody's beliefs, they immediately start calling you names, and they'll throw everything at you, every name, every little ism. You're an ist, you're a racist, you're a phobe, or xenophobe, or a homophobe, or you keep naming it. It just goes through, and they've gotten into this identity politics, which is so ridiculous. They won't listen to anybody's argument. They don't want you to talk to any other group except this group, and they want to tell you what you should say to this group and how you should be, and it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness. Right. And obviously you saw some attacks that I was dealing with. I get attacked by pro-life movement. I get attacked by pro-choice people. I get attacked by the LGBT community. I get attacked by heavy Christian communities. I get attacked by everybody. So at this point in time, I just state my beliefs. I'll speak to anybody about anything. They don't like it, I'm sorry. Then they'll have to deal with that. But I'm certainly not going to bow to the pressure of the mob and to the people telling me what I should say, when I should say it, how I should say it. Absolutely not, and it doesn't bother me at all when people make the attacks. It's just, I find it ridiculous. I went on a diatribe there. Sorry, Allan.
Oh no. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I completely understand. I voted for Trump, and we can just leave it at that. So I mean, I'm definitely some of those phobes and isms, and I'm a self-loathing homophobe. So I completely understand. I mean, you've always been on the side for equal rights, for same-sex marriage, even before it wasn't, and like I would say, fashionable.
Way before, because I grew up with so many friends of mine who are gay, and I never thought it was ever an issue. I never thought it was a problem. I never saw why anybody couldn't. I had teachers that were gay. I had coaches that were gay. I had everything all the way through. I never even thought it was a thing.
Right.
I never even understood that there was even a situation where it could be that could be that way. Right. And for me, that's the way it still is. I can't see that being an issue at all. I can't, and I don't support anybody who wants to change or take any of his rights away at all. Right. For their sexual preference, for the love of God.
Right. I mean, I remember even way back in 2000, the Broken Hearts Club, which
I love that movie.
Which is one of my favorite movies. You played Cole, and I remember I saw it, and I was just like, wow, he's on our side, and it was.
Absolutely. And Cole was such a fun character to play, a lovable cad
Mhm.
He never wanted to hurt anybody, but he did.
Yes.
He was just very self-absorbed, and he had a lot of fun with himself. That's for sure.
It was, yes, it's still a good movie. And one of my friends actually, who I was talking to about all this, I'm like, you've never seen that, so I got to see it again very recently. So that made me happy.
I think it still holds up.
Oh yes, definitely. One of the things about it was one of the first movies about being gay that didn't have to deal with AIDS. It didn't deal with sex or drugs or any of those other things. It was about just regular kind of LGBT lifestyle, just normal,
People,
everyday.
Friends.
Yeah.
Friends and romance and something anybody, regardless of your sexual preferences, should be able to relate to.
Right, and it was good. It was refreshing. It was a movie that wasn't, I guess, a tragedy.
Exactly.
We didn't have too many of those. But speaking of tragedies, I did want to ask you, and I know since we are talking about the whole guilt by association and the clickbait and people jumping to conclusions. So
yes.
Saturday,
which is a fallacy, by the way. Guilt by association is an absolute fallacy, and we know it. And people just refuse to change their mind. They're going to say that no matter what, and it's just ridiculous.
And I mean, I could pick anybody, and I'm sure if I dug far enough, I'm sure that I would know somebody that, I'd find somebody that they know that wasn't too savory or had done so. I mean, yeah, it is ridiculous. But this Saturday, we got a new Supreme Court Justice, Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes, we did. Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes. It actually, I thought a lot of this, it happened a lot quicker with the FBI probe, a lot quicker than I was anticipating. I was thinking this was going to really drag out. But come Saturday, we got Brett Kavanaugh. I wanted to get your take as to this process of what had happened and where we are now, and what do you think we're going to look forward to?
Well, it's gotten extremely polarized in the last several appointments. It didn't used to be that way. Anton Scalia, I believe, was approved 97-0. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and that, several decades ago, obviously. But now it's gotten extremely polarized. Politics is an ugly, dirty game, and so those guys have been messing around, and politicians have been changing the rules, and they changed. There was the Biden the Biden rule, which you don't appoint a Supreme Court justice during a presidential election year, and it went into effect. That's why Merrick Garland got
held off.
Filibustered and held off, and those are the rules of the Senate, and they changed the Senate, and they changed the rules. I don't have to go run through it with you because and they changed the rules and allow a simple majority instead of 60 votes. And so, if you have the House or if you have the Senate, you can get a judge through. That's the way it works now. And those are the rules that were implemented by the former administration, and now there's a new administration in town, and they can make use of those rules. So I think what happened was, just from a procedural point of view, I think that the Democrats, they said, like, whoever Trump is going to nominate, they're going to fight tooth and nail, because it's sort of seen as the Kennedy vote was sort of seen as a swing vote, and they figured he would appoint somebody constitutionally to the right.
Like he said he was going to.
And he said he was going to. Well, he's kind of done a lot of things that he said he was going to do.
Yes.
and so he, whether it was going to be Brett Kavanaugh, I thought it was going to be Amy Coney Barrett.
I did too.
I really thought it was going to be her, but whoever it was, they were going to go after. And they went after him, and they went after him on the law and the things, and if they do that, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. This whole thing with the Christine Blasey Ford accusation with zero corroborating evidence, and 36 years ago, that was, and Feinstein sitting on the letter for so long, from July until it's just to me, it's just all jumped and screamed political delay tactic. And they went through it, and there was a lot of outrage, and there still is outrage. But I said this the other day in the news, that outrage goes back to what we talked about a minute ago, which is you voted for Trump. So did I. Mm-hmm. And that outrage goes back to when Donald Trump was elected president. And they are just screaming all these isms and things. Do I think Brett Kavanaugh is a rapist? No, I do not. Do I think something happened to Dr. Ford? Maybe. Sure, something happened to her. Do I think it was Brett Kavanaugh? No idea.
No.
Turns out that the guy who was her ex-boyfriend who wrote that letter saying very clear for 6.5 years, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, she wasn't afraid of this, that, the other thing. She helped coach someone. It's a kid that I've known my whole life.
Yeah.
And I've known this guy my whole life. He doesn't have a political bone in his body. He doesn't have any dog in that fight. But he got contacted, he got shoved in the middle of this, and he told the truth. And this is a guy I trust implicitly, whose own father was a judge. This guy wants to be nowhere near politics. And he told the truth, I believe. And that just absolutely destroys her story.
Right.
So, do I think it was a political stunt? Yes, I do, 100%.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. What I'm curious as to what's going to happen from this point forward. And I mean, I know now Justice Kavanaugh, he had said that he fears that people who are well suited for the job, will not be stepping up because they don't want to go through things like this. But
That's
what
not new, I don't think. It's
right.
just getting worse. I mean, I remember even George Clooney saying something similar to this way back when he was just finishing ER, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. He's like, good people don't want to do these jobs because of the scrutiny and because of the false allegations. And, people are still today, there's a picture of, Brett Kavanaugh standing there with the Supreme Court. They put, a beer kegger on his head and things like that. And, he's a, you see comments on Twitter. He's a knockdown. He's a blackout, slobbering, drunk rapist. You're like, what are you talking about?
Right. Where is this coming from?
Wow. I mean, it's glad that you know that this person is a rapist and a slobbering, blackout drunk because you have zero evidence of that. I mean, it's crazy.
Right. And a couple of weeks ago, the biggest thing a couple of weeks ago was Cory Booker wondering about, racial profiling. Now he's a gang rapist.
There it is, bing, just like that. And it changes at the drop of a hat, and it comes down to it's hashtag resist is really what it comes down to. But it goes back to President Obama. Elections have consequences, and that's the deal.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where we are today. I'm kind of fearing for, where for women in general, where is this going to go? I mean, is this going to afford them, less opportunity, or are people going to be, I'm thinking, are they going to be less likely to offer, positions or things where they're going to have to, where they're going to want to work alone with a woman, or are they going to put themselves in a particular?
A lot of people are. Well, remember how much fun they made of? They made so much fun of Mike Pence for saying he wouldn't sit down and have dinner with a woman, and
he's right.
Well, it kind of proves it to some degree. I mean, look at Brett Kavanaugh. There's literally zero corroboration. Nothing. There's not a single person other than the quote victim themselves who said something, and there's never been nothing's been filed. So it is frightening. It is frightening, and I understand that. Listen, I was accused of groping a woman, and fortunately for me, it was on camera. A girl I had known for years, on camera during a television show as I was saying goodbye, and saying goodbye in a way that I had said goodbye 60 times beforehand. A kiss on the cheek, bye, on both cheeks, just like I do in Europe. If I live in Europe, I have a home in Europe. I had a house there for 16 years, and that was it. It was on camera, and I'd done it, dozens of times, and then I was accused of groping. Thank God that was on camera, and I could say, there's my groping. Call that groping. Go ahead. But other than that, it's a charge that sticks.
Yeah.
And it's really frightening. So I hope that isn't the case. What they need to do is if someone's going to give false statement, false testimony, prosecute them.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree with you.
No, and that's not going to stop people from coming forward. And people, again, if people are going to give me this whole thing about, I'm a rape, I've been called a rape apologist now, which of course, listen, my sister and my mother both had, you have been called that too. My sister and my mother was raped. I mean, I have some horrible stories, and trust me, I'm anything but a rape apologist. But what they went through was a hell of a lot worse than what Christine Ford went through, and they have gotten through it, and their opinions a whole lot different on that. And I am anything but a rape apologist, but you got to have some evidence. If you're going to accuse somebody of it, you got to have some evidence. You got to back it up somehow.
I had Juanita Broderick on a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to her.
Awesome.
I was talking to her. She's an amazing woman. She's so nice. She's just I could have talked to her for the whole entire show. But I mean, she from what she went through with Bill Clinton, I mean, and she has a completely different take on this. And I mean, and she's by no means a rape apologist.
Yeah, by no means. She's a victim herself.
Yes.
And that is unbelievable. And there's the double standard, and you see it all the time. Yeah. That's the double standard. They talk about this, that, and then, but the ACLU did put something out in their ad, their anti-Kavanaugh ad that put Clinton on there, which is interesting. They did an anti-Kavanaugh ad, and it started with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I think the Dems may have to make a couple of concessions, especially with things that are going on today.
I would think so.
You would hope so. But all right, Dean. Well, I think we, as usual, I'm up against the clock here too. So I did want to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to come and tell us about the movie and your take on just the state that we're in today.
Yeah, Allan, listen, I appreciate you having an open conversation and being willing to discuss things, whether we, agree with each other or not. Here's the thing. If I disagree with you on something, I'm not going to start lighting you up and calling you isms and obes and phobes and this and that. That's just not how it works. People disagree, and it's okay to disagree. And I find that just madness. I don't just go on shows that just agree with me either. I'm happy to go speak to someone who believes one way or the other. So I'm happy to discuss my point of view. Hopefully they'll do it in a respectful manner. If it's not a respectful manner, then the interview ends. Right,
and I understand because I've even tried to get some of our other elected officials in this state on my show who are on the other side, and they just for the discussion, because I'm not going to rip anyone a new one, but I want to have a discussion where you're coming from and see where we can meet. But I think we're more willing to talk than the other side of the aisle.
I enjoyed your talk. By the way, I think it was at your state.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, whatever that was at your state assembly or something like that. You did a great job talking about the Second Amendment, which I happen to be a huge supporter of as well. So I thought that was well done.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the fight continues. A fight that shouldn't happen, but the fight that continues.
And it'll continue.
Yes,
no
it
problem
will.
with that.
All right, Dean, I want to thank you. And again, this Saturday, Gosnell is opening up nationwide. So everyone,
out there and see it, please. We
yes,
need the support.
Yes, go down and see it. So thank you very much, Dean. I will let you get back to all your craziness.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Thank you. So do I. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dean, I want to thank you very much. We actually have to get going because, as usual, time is against us. I want to thank you for taking the time to do that, and I just want to finish up with this. It was 1942 that Superman began his battle for truth, justice, and the American way. Some very powerful and inspirational words and a concept that many of us hold dear. It was much easier when everyone was on the same page, though, because you see, when you change the definition of words to sell a narrative, the results have far-reaching and disastrous effects. The next generation of superheroes, heroes, the ones who will serve and fight for our country, are already here. They are, of course, our children, which is why we must not just make instilling those values a priority, but teaching them what they are and what they mean. They should respect the power of truth. We need to educate them on the importance of justice, real justice. It's about being fair and equitable and not hiding behind a keyboard or a mask. And to be honest with them about the shining beacon that has been and always will be the American way. Before we pass the baton on to the next generation of supermen and superwomen, we must remember to stay true to ourselves and not to lose who we are in the very fight to save and uphold the values and the principles that we wish to pass on. Make no mistake about it, they are watching us, and like it or not, they will emulate us. And it is because of this, and above all else, that we must lead, and we must lead by example. Because life moves as fast as a speeding bullet, and together we are more powerful than a locomotive. And it's not just the limitations we place on ourselves, but the restrictions we place on others that keep us from leaping over those tall buildings in a single bound. I'm Allan Gibberti. This has been Rhode Island Red Radio. Up, up, and away.
The preceding program contained views, opinions, and thoughts that do not necessarily represent those of 990 WBOB, its management, or its staff. So now you know.